Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar on DOE Zero Energy Ready Home for New Jersey's Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. This is Jamie Lyons presenting today alongside with Sam Rashkin of the Department of Energy Building Technologies Office. And today we'd like to cover the topic of why Zero Energy Ready Home is affordable and really drill down into that and have a particular focus on how Zero Energy Ready is part of the options for developers to use within New Jersey's low-income housing tax credit programs. The topics we'll be covering today are shown here. Just wanted to make sure the screen sharing was working. So first we'll talk quickly about the rebates that are available in New Jersey. Sam will explore a little bit about the affordable new reality. We'll talk about the relationship of Zero Ready to green and efficiency programs. Then we'll give a quick review of the specifications, what's involved in building to DOE Zero Energy Ready as compared to the Energy Start program. And then we'll wrap up with a few words of advice about getting started with the program. So first off, let's quickly cover the landscape of what's going on in New Jersey as far as available rebates. What we see here on this slide is a table taken from the New Jersey Clean Energy Incentives offerings that are currently on the table in the state. And if we take a look at that second row that we've highlighted here, we see out there on the right-hand side in the multifamily column that multifamily dwelling units, which are built and certified to DOE Zero Energy Ready, ZERH, they qualify for a $1,500 rebate plus an additional incentive based on the energy savings for the dwelling unit. So as we look across the country, this is really one of the most significant rebates that are available for builders and developers of Zero Energy Ready homes. And down at the bottom, we point out a few of the footnotes, including the program source, which can be found at NewJerseyCleanEnergy.com. So first off, we see that there are significant rebates available for Zero Energy Ready multifamily units. And then a second important thing to note for developers of affordable housing projects in New Jersey is what we see here. This is the 2019-20 Qualified Allocation Plan, or QAP, in New Jersey. And this first set of options, the 6 items listed here at the top, they are available green building programs that qualify a project or its application for additional points, 4 additional points within the QAP framework. And item number 4, which we've highlighted with the arrow, is called the Climate Choice Homes Tier 3. If you unpack that just a little bit, we find that Tier 3 is really based upon DOE Zero Energy Ready Home certification, plus a HERS score of 50 plus renewables. So at the same time, these big rebates are available, as we saw on the last slide, affordable housing developers get 4 additional points if their project would meet this Tier 3 participation goal. And this is the 1920 QAP. In speaking with folks involved with New Jersey's QAP, it's fairly likely that in upcoming QAPs, perhaps as early as the next cycle, DOE Zero Energy Ready Home will be referenced directly because Tier 3 within the climate choice programs run by the state is phasing out. So it's a fairly attractive offering now and is likely to become more attractive to developers building to DOE Zero Energy Ready Home. So that's a quick review of the landscape within New Jersey. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sam to talk us through the affordable new reality and why Zero Energy Ready homes are affordable. Sam?
Hey, thank you, Jamie. And let me just grab the screen here and start by saying that there is a new reality for all home builders, but no segment of the industry is more impacted by what's changed than the low-income households and affordable housing. So let's look at the new reality that's in play for affordability. And it all hinges on the changes that are coming with code changes. Essentially, this is a graph that shows over time the rigor of the energy code, where the lower on the vertical axis the code goes, the much more efficient performance a minimum home has to comply with. So on the left axis, the energy use index is a metric for how we measure energy use. The lower the number, the lower the energy used. And across time, we see that the changes have been fairly gradual until we get to 2006 and 2009 and 2012. And those two jumps to 2009 and then 2012 is almost a 40% increase in rigor from 2006. So the big message here is energy use went up substantially. And if we chart basically starting in 2009 downwards to even lower and lower energy use with code homes, we find that we're really looking at some very impressive comfort, maintenance and health challenges that come along for the ride with the energy efficient performance. So the key here is that a number of questions have to be addressed. Are homes affordable if they don't help minimize energy expenses while addressing these new challenges with comfort expenses, maintenance expenses, and health expenses? And all this while we have to keep an eye on optimizing future value. No segment, again, of the population is more grounded in needing their biggest asset, their home, to maintain its value or even grow in value. And so that's very difficult if it becomes obsolete way too quickly. So let's look at these individually. And with minimizing energy expenses, clearly what we're trying to do is optimize efficiency in the homes, and that will add some additional monthly mortgage for the improvements it takes to do that. The key, though, is that we're trying to move from first cost considerations to total cost of ownership. And if the monthly utility savings, as it will almost always do, is greater than the added monthly mortgage, that's a lower true cost. And if monthly utility rates keep going up as energy becomes more costly, those savings get higher and higher. So the true cost gets lower and lower over time. And what's very significant, particularly again for low-income households, is that over a 30-year mortgage, we're really looking at tens of thousands of dollars of savings, and no segment of the population needs those savings more than low-income households. So the energy expenses truly is a critical opportunity for building affordable housing. The next question looked at minimizing comfort expenses, and the driving force for this is that everything changes when we go from a less efficient enclosure on the bottom to a more efficient enclosure. And the reason we're going from a much greater thermal and airflow situation to a dramatically reduced thermal and airflow situation. And as you know, we're always going from more to less in terms of thermal flow. So in the winter, the heat's going out, and in the summer, the heat's coming in. And what's happening is that effectively, we're going with more efficient enclosures to a situation where we have a lot less airflow and a lot longer swing seasons. And that's a concern for two reasons. One, with less airflow, the old strategies for how we would install ducts without a lot of diligence on sizing and installation can lead to problems. There's so much less airflow. Duct sizing challenges will lead to further challenges with proper mixing and comfort throughout the house, and that could be exacerbated as we start changing our thermostat settings and increasing energy use and energy costs. Secondly, because the homes are built so much better, cooling may not kick into much later in the year, from let's say mid-April to mid-June. And similarly, in the fall, it may shut down much later. Instead of cooling shutting down in September, in mid-August or late August, it's going to shut down in mid or late September. And that's such an issue because that means that we won't be managing the humidity accidentally the way we do in less efficient enclosures where air conditioning is still operating and providing dehumidification. So will we be providing comfort, and will we not be forcing homeowners to lower the set points for cooling and maintain humidity control that way at much greater expense? The next challenge is minimizing maintenance expenses. And again, with dramatically reduced thermal and airflow in the assemblies, we also have colder surfaces on the cold side. And so we have greater wetting potential because we have colder surfaces, and we have less drying potential because we have less thermal flow going through the assembly. So if any moisture, bulk moisture, can get in the wall, we have tremendously greater potential for doing harm, either in the terms of moisture damage and or mold and dry rot that can kick in. So what we want to do is be bulletproof, keeping moisture out of our assemblies so that we do no harm and manage the greater risk because of the more efficient assemblies. The next expense we want to address is health expenses. And with a much more airtight construction and the more efficient enclosure, we have a lot less natural infiltration of air in and out of the building. So we have greater capacity to accumulate contaminants that we introduce in our buildings. We need to be more diligent about a comprehensive indoor air control strategy for keeping our indoor environment as safe as we can make it. So all these additional challenges have to be addressed, and here's why. So in optimizing affordability, we have a strategy for how we do that. And the first thing is, on the energy expenses, we have a complete two-part process for how we optimize efficiency. First, our enclosure, again, is built much more rigorous. It has better insulation and better air sealing and has a better windows that provide an outstanding performance, much superior to what we used to build. So we start with the efficient enclosure to minimize our heating and cooling expenses, and then we go to energy efficient components inside the home because they now represent way more percentage of the total energy use. In fact, often 50-60% or more of the total use is now the indoor components once we make an energy efficient enclosure. So that will entail usually things like energy efficient appliances, lighting, fans inside our home, and efficient equipment. Once we've done that, we want to address those critical challenges and do no harm. We do that with comprehensive water protection to minimize the maintenance expenses associated with moisture issues. We have insured comfort system with quality installed systems to manage the comfort challenges with a more efficient enclosure. And then we have comprehensive indoor air quality, source control, dilution, filtration, all to address the much more airtight construction. So now we have optimized efficiency, we do no harm. The last step is we want to ensure that we can go to zero anytime we want in the future. And we do that with solar-ready construction where you have low cost or no cost details and practices that position a home so solar can be added anytime in the future with no cost penalty or minimal disruption in the home to have that installation done. Solar and battery systems are going through major innovation cycles right now. Shouldn't low-income households also be accessible to those innovations in the future? So that's how we optimize affordability, and that's our Zero Energy Ready Home specification. And with the label Zero Energy Ready Home, there's a way that program providers can be ensured they get it, and building buyers or home buyers can be assured they're getting this performance simply by getting a certification to this label performance. So next section I want to talk about is the relationship to green and efficiency programs with Zero Energy Ready Home. And the most significant thing I want to cover right now in this section is the staircase that's there for all of us to kind of move up as we're ready. And things, of course, begin with the code. Home is the basic level we have to do. We have to be built to minimum code, and that will be different in different locations from 2009, 2012, 2015. But from the minimum code, we can go above code to Energy Star certified homes. Currently, we're in version 3, and some locations have version 3.1 where the codes are 2012 or greater. And so that's the next step in the staircase. And often it's an elegantly simple step as more and more codes are being implemented with ERI, an energy rating index that's usually based on a HERS rating, because the HERS rating is the underpinning for verifying to the Energy Star certified home level. The next step in the staircase is to go and fully address all those additional challenges we mentioned with Zero Energy Ready Home. That will entail prerequisites for Energy Star and Indoor Air Plus, and it takes you to the next level, the most rigorous level of guidelines in the federal government for high performance homes. And then there's a fourth step. The passive house will be the penultimate in terms of most energy efficient homes you can build. And that uses our Zero Energy Ready Home as a prerequisite. And by virtue of having that as a prerequisite, you also have Air Plus and Energy Star and obviously code as the underpinnings to passive house. And the key thing we want to mention, of course, is there is a verification gap between taking the staircase jump from Zero Ready to FIAS because there will be a different verification process with FIAS professionals and a FIAS software package called WUFI Plus. And so there'll be different systems that kick in. So do be aware to take that last step. You do have to bridge that gap. So that's how all these programs tie together. Let's talk about how we crosswalk with some of the other green programs that are out there and affordable programs. And the first one I want to talk about is the Energy Enterprise Green Communities Program. Currently with the 2015 version, you'll find that you need 30 optional points minimum plus some mandatory criteria, and Zero Energy Ready Home will get you 12 optional points. So it accounts for a lot of the points you need for that program. And also, it will automatically bring you the mandatory Energy Star for Home certification, since that's a prerequisite for Zero Energy Ready Home. So very strong linkage between Enterprise Green Communities and Zero Energy Ready Home in the 2015 version. The 2020 version will be introduced shortly, and there are even more points and more contribution with Zero Energy Ready Home to the Enterprise Green Community Program. The next one I want to talk about is Lead for Homes version 4. And here, Zero Energy Ready Home is a very significant tie-in to that. There are 26.5 points embedded with Zero Energy Ready Home certification to the 40-point minimum that you need. So you're substantially on your way to LEED certified once you do Zero Energy Ready Home. It also will address most of the prerequisites that you have for energy and atmosphere and the indoor environmental quality sections of LEED for Homes. And it also will contribute some additional points with a HERS index that's less than 56, which is typical for Zero Energy Ready Home. So very significant potential for Zero Energy Ready Home to really help you meet your requirements with the LEED for Homes version 4 program. So that's out there as well. And lastly, I want to just talk about the alignment between Zero Energy Ready Home and more state programs that are on the landscape there. First, the Qualified Action Programs. There are now 6 states that are featuring Zero Energy Ready Home as part of their programs. And as you can see in the list, Connecticut, Delaware, Georgia, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., I believe also there are a few others that are in development. So this is a significant connection to affordable housing with Zero Energy Ready Home. Also, code is more and more looking to Zero Energy Ready Home as a full or partial solution. The Oregon Code in 2023 is fully based on the Zero Energy Ready Home specifications. Rhode Island Stretch Code fully aligns with our enclosure requirements. And so more and more we're looking for states to leverage the Zero Energy Ready Home as a platform for their codes. And finally, rebates in Connecticut, New Jersey have 2 programs statewide that leverage Zero Energy Ready Home for significant rebates. And obviously New Jersey, Jamie just covered the significant changes that will take effect shortly. So very substantial connection to these state programs. And that will bring me back to Jamie to take you through the easy lift to Energy Star, from Energy Star.
Great, thank you, Sam. So continuing right along, developers, builders, designers, they obviously want to understand what are the details in the Zero Ready Home program specs and what does the building design have to achieve. So that's what we'll talk about in this next section. And it's framed, as Sam mentioned, as the step or the lift from Energy Star Homes. Reason being that most designers, builders, developers that come to our program, they're fairly familiar with Energy Star Homes. They probably have been building to that, maybe on its own, or maybe because it's part and parcel of the Enterprise Green Communities program. So there's a strong familiarity within what's involved with Energy Star. So in framing the Zero Ready specs, we show what's the difference. What do you have to do above and beyond Energy Star to meet the requirements for Zero Energy Ready Home? We'll start off quickly with the eligible building types. This is a simple one. The eligible building types for DOE Zero Ready are the exact same as they are for Energy Star. It covers single family detached, single family attached. Also covers multifamily buildings up to 5 stories. and there's some stipulations there from that 4- and 5-story area. We need at least 80% of the occupiable floor space to be comprised of dwelling units. Many of you are also probably familiar with the recently developed and recently released Energy Star multifamily new construction program. This is merging their homes program with the high-rise program for multifamily, so it's becoming one unified multifamily program out of Energy Star. It allows for buildings of all different sizes to participate, and they're now in this transition phase where they're rolling the integrated multifamily program into the industry, and after a period of another year or so, will become the program to use for multifamily buildings. Couple quick items to note: that Energy Star multifamily new construction is now available to use for partners, and importantly, if a project wants to go that way for whatever reason, the DOE Zero Ready program will recognize that participation in Energy Star multifamily as meeting the prereq for participation within Energy Star. So if a project is looking at Zero Ready and they're going through the Energy Star multifamily new construction program, that works just fine, and our spec allows for that and recognizes that. Then as far as we get to the actual specifications and the building systems involved, we show the stair-step diagram. So moving left to right, we have that minimum code building. Then we have two different versions of Energy Star Homes, version 3, a little bit less stringent, version 3.1, which is enforced in a dozen plus states which have more rigorous energy codes. So Energy Star has a more rigorous version of the homes program there. And then at the far right, we have the DOE Zero Ready home specification. And the pieces we'll talk through over the next few minutes are these yellow blocks, areas where DOE Zero Ready goes above and beyond the Energy Star home specs. So we'll start off right out of the gate with the HERS index. This is the measuring stick for the efficiency of the home or the dwelling unit. And what we show here in this chart is that there's a thing called the target home, which dials in certain specs for a house or a dwelling unit, and that essentially sets the bar for the efficiency of the dwelling unit. In this quick example, we show a 94% furnace if we're building in climate zone 5, for example. The actual design may or may not use a 94% system, but they're being compared to that. And as a result of the modeling, that dwelling unit needs to show that they have a HERS target at least as efficient as a twin of the design home dialed into the specs that we see here for the target home. Where that typically lands us is shown here. New Jersey is primarily climate zones 4 and 5, so we can see that most homes, typically to qualify for Zero Ready are in the mid-50s, somewhere in that neighborhood. It varies by specific project, and the modeling software that the energy consultants use will determine what's the exact HERS value that a project needs to attain. You can see here that programs like Energy Star range much higher in terms of the HERS index, high 60s or mid 60s or low 60s in case of Energy Star version 3.1. If you're asking yourself, well, how rigorous, how tough is it to get to a HERS value in the mid 50s? This is pretty good evidence that it should be readily attainable. Each year, ResNet, which is the industry group that manages the rating standards for home energy ratings, releases its annual numbers. And each year for the past several years, there's been well over 200,000 ratings. And the average HERS index is a 61. So we've looked at that and concluded that there's tens of thousands of homes that really are already there in terms of having that HERS index in the mid-50s or lower. So it's fairly unlikely and uncommon that we see the HERS value as a sticking point for a project attaining the Zero Energy Ready Home certification. Just a couple examples of affordable projects. Here we see a single family attached. This is in a fairly cold climate up in Michigan, climate zone 6. But you can see here the HERS value is -1 because this home does have renewables with the home. And then that big value down there at the bottom, $39,000 of accrued energy savings in the first 30 years, really showing the value over the long haul of that higher energy performance and reducing energy costs year after year. And then an example of an affordable multifamily project is shown here. This is in New York. HERS value of 26 without PV, so it's quite a low HERS score. And you can see some of the metrics, like a $50 average monthly energy bill. So these are some of the metrics that are possible and that we see coming out of affordable zero energy ready home projects. Next on the step chart that we see here is the building enclosure. We focus on this because we have one really great opportunity to get it right, and that's during the initial construction. So the Zero Ready program anchors the building enclosure to be at least as good as the specifications you'd find in the 2015 Energy Code. Nearly all the projects use the total UA calc. That allows the designer to balance off some parts of the envelope, which may be a bit under the 2015 R values or U values, and balance them off against other parts of the envelope, which may be a bit over. The rating software does all that math, so the designer, the rater, can easily see what they need to do to come up with a compliant building envelope. Just to get a quick sense of what R values we're talking about, this chart shows the 2015 Energy Code values for both climate zones 4 and 5, and in some cases, like the ceiling, they're the same values. R49, walls at either an R20 or R13 plus R5 continuous. So those are the types of values we're seeing. Again, most of our developer and builder partners don't really struggle with this. We're looking for good envelope provisions, but nothing beyond the realm of typical practices and methods. As far as the windows, they are pegged to the specifications that you see here. So for example, for in climate zone 4, the windows need to have a U value of 0.30. For in climate zone 5, generally will mean a window with a U value of 0.30 as well. So again, good windows, but you'll find these in lots of typical new construction projects. In some cases, these are just a tick above the Energy Code requirements. Next three boxes we're going to cruise right through because the framework we're looking at is the lens of what's different above and beyond Energy Star. So in Energy Star, we have independent verification. We have a third-party rater that's double-checking the plan review and verifying some items in the field. We have some basic water management checklist items already built in, so the home does a good job at managing moisture. And then we also have quality installed HVAC with whole house ventilation. We know the home has a well-designed HVAC system and it has a fresh air system. Pretty basic considering the tightness levels of modern construction. So each of those three items are part and parcel of Energy Star. And because Energy Star is a prereq for Zero Ready also has them built in. So the next item as we continue to climb the ladder is the duct location. We call it an optimized duct location. Just a real quick example of why this really matters. Oftentimes we focus on high efficient mechanical equipment and the ducts may or may not get a serious look. That's kind of what we have on the left side. On the right side, we have a well-located, well-designed, well-installed duct system, but fairly typical, not very high efficiency HVAC. But you can see overall, you're better off with that better duct system. Higher overall system efficiency in terms of all the energy we're putting in versus the energy that gets where we want it to go. In reality, we really want both. We want high efficiency mechanicals as well as a good duct system. Also, variable speed cooling equipment, it runs a long time. And research has shown if we have ducts in a hot place like an attic, because of that longer runtime, that duct location really can take a bite out of the system efficiency. So all that boils down to the Zero Ready home spec that requires that ducts either be in conditioned space, as you see several methods over on the left side, or that we go ductless, we don't have any ducts, or that we go with ducts in a vented attic as long as they're really well air sealed and buried under a large amount of insulation. And there's specific prescriptive pathways for how to do that within the program specs. But there's a lot of different methods to get there. The bottom line is that the ducts are no longer a huge liability and they perform well. The next item climbing up the ladder is the complete Indoor Air Plus certification. And for those of you who may not be as familiar with IAP, it's a collection of good practices to get a complete system for indoor air quality in a new home or a new dwelling. It's based on Energy Star Homes as a good starting point. Energy Star does things like requires the whole house ventilation that we mentioned. And then the system is rounded out by doing a few other measures where if you're really looking for a complete IAQ system, you'd want these things in a dwelling or a home. Things like radon mitigation or pest management. We'll quickly walk through these, but overall it's a collection of good practices for IAQ. So if we're in radon zone 1, we build in at least radon-resistant construction techniques that you see here, the stack, the gravel layer, the plastic sheeting underneath the slab, all basic radon-resistant construction techniques if a project is located in radon zone 1. Radon test kits are not required. If we zoom in close to Jersey, it looks like there are perhaps a few counties that are in radon zone 1 where these methods would be required for indoor air quality. This one, screened openings for pests, this is just basic. This is basically a code requirement, but we're making sure it's on a checklist, we're making sure it's done, and that it's verified. This next item is very important, really, if you consider how airtight apartments and homes are being built today. We don't want to build in materials that emit high levels of contaminants that we don't in the indoor air. So the Indoor Air Plus spec calls for low emission materials for pressed wood, for formaldehyde, cabinets, low VOC paints, and low VOC carpets and padding and adhesives. The good news is that these products are really widely available. Most don't carry any cost premium. The industry has really been on board and caught up in this regard. To make the job of identifying these and specifying these products easier, the Indoor Air Plus program has a really helpful resource called How to Find Indoor Air Plus Compliant Low Emission Products. It's a bit of a cheat sheet that calls out what are the third-party specs you need for your cabinets or for your carpets or your paint, and quickly points to industry resources that make it easier to specify the correct products. Certified carbon monoxide alarms. Again, there's just basic requirements that are right in line with what minimum code would require to ensure combustion safety. And for multifamily, Indoor Air Plus requires a no smoking policy for public spaces in the multifamily buildings. In the cases when we have an attached garage, first off, we want to have a self-closing and gasketed door so contaminants from the garage can't migrate into the house. And then if the dwelling or if the house is using an exhaust-based system for whole house ventilation, then we want to prevent that system from drawing in contaminants from an attached garage. So we can either get at that by putting an exhaust fan in the garage that pulls air back to the outdoors, or where most projects end up going is they do a blower door diagnostic, which simply demonstrates we have a really tight air seal between the house and the garage. Not too many multifamily buildings might find themselves in that position, but just an item to be aware of. We want to keep air handlers out of the garage so we don't entrain pollutants and chemicals and bring them into the house through the ductwork. Building cavity ducts are really hard to air seal, and they invite some other complications. So they're not allowed under the Indoor Air Plus program. And in most cases, they've been prohibited by code now for 1 or 2 cycles as well. Makes sense to have cleaner air, so we can do better than the minimum, requiring an 8 MERV filter, if not higher, to try to get some of the particulates out of the airstream. Not too relevant to New Jersey, but areas in the southeast, down in that white dashed area, are required to have systems that can ably dehumidify the air to keep it below 60% relative humidity or less. And some of our project partners in climate zones 3A, 4A, perhaps as far north in New Jersey, do this on an optional basis, again, just to control the indoor humidity within the living space. Next item as we continue to climb the ladder is kind of a simple one. It's just to simply use efficient components and appliances wherever we can. So on the left side, we see the energy budget for a home built a few years ago, maybe 2-3 code cycles ago, much larger. And if we look at the different slices of that pie, we can see that it was dominated by heating and cooling. Today, given the gains that codes have made, heating and cooling are much a smaller slice of that pie, and what's happened is that the miscellaneous loads, the lighting, the appliances, and other electrical loads have gotten to be much bigger. And so what we want to do, everywhere where it's reasonable and cost effective to do so, we use Energy Star appliances to continue just to ratchet down the energy budget for the home or for the dwelling unit. So that means Energy Star refrigerator or dishwasher, where the builder is supplying those appliances, or the clothes washer. Energy Star certified fans in the bathroom and the ceiling fans. One of the big benefits of the bathroom fans being Energy Star certified is it means they're going to operate more quietly, so they have a much better shot at being used. Lighting, at least 80% of the lighting should be Energy Star rated fixtures or lamps, and that can be CFL, although most partners really have gone all the way to LED. And then we look for the hot water systems to either feature one of two performance thresholds: having efficient distribution, the way the piping's laid out, or using a really efficient water heater and low flow fixtures. Option A basically says we lay out the hot water piping such that we don't have any more than a half gallon of stored water between the water heater and the furthest fixture on the system. So we're not wasting a lot of hot water leaving it sit into the pipes, and we're not draining lots of water waiting for hot water to arrive at the fixture. That's option A. If we find ourselves in a multifamily building, there are some provisions allowed. Central systems are allowed. And if we end up using a central system, there's a few provisions to have an on-demand operation system built into how that central system is going to operate. Really the main items on the table to get that efficient hot water distribution are laid out here. Core plumbing, everything's consolidated around a wet wall, a manifold system where we have home runs, or a demand pumping system. And again, as we mentioned, if we're in a multifamily central domestic hot water, we're looking for on-demand recirc, and that recirc is going to operate when two things happen: that the loop temp is too low and there's some kind of demand for hot water use. Then the recirc system can operate and push water through the recirc loop. And then option B is to use a very efficient water heater, a tankless water heater in the case of gas water heating, or a heat pump water heater in the case of electric water heating. And then we want to use efficient fixtures. So all shower heads and bathroom sink faucets should be WaterSense labeled. And then there is a sort of a minimum backstop that even if we're going with this option, we don't want the system to store loads and loads of hot water, so no more than 1.2 gallons of stored hot water between the hot water source and the furthest fixture. Last item in the delta, the lift up to zero ready from Energy Star Homes, is to make the building solar ready. So this is a collection of no cost or low cost features like documenting the load ratings, running a conduit from the attic area down to the electric panel, providing some area to install the other system components, running some conduit between that area and the electric panel, and then using a circuit breaker, which either has an installed circuit breaker or reserves a slot to tie in the PV. So these are the things that we look for. They're encouraged throughout most of the country and required in the really high solar areas that you see highlighted here on the map. So in the case of New Jersey, it's likely that these would be encouraged items but not required. And then importantly, if we're in a multifamily setting, we do want to point out that not each and every dwelling unit has to be made PV ready. Some of the economics of that and the scalability of that don't make a lot of sense. So there is an allowance that the PV ready features, like using a PV ready service panel, that can be applied to the common space electrical system. So there's an allowance for multifamily projects in how the PV ready checklist is applied. And then also if the building simply has a lot of shading or has very little south-facing roof available, the PV-ready items are no longer required because of those limitations. far as added costs, question comes up a lot. And as always, it really depends on where we're starting from. If a project is already building to Energy Star, they're really well along the way. And maybe they're building to Energy Star because the project needs to meet green communities, as Sam mentioned earlier. So if that's the case, the additional steps to meet the Zero Ready specs are fairly limited, and the added cost would be modest. And we have all that against the backdrop of those incentives and rebates that we saw right at the outset, which can offset several $1,000s worth of the added cost. So it's a pretty unique landscape in New Jersey for these types of projects to go forward. There is a cost analysis for those people who want to take a deeper dive. It's available on the Zero Ready website, and it looks at the added costs, really not to go from Energy Star or green communities, but way down at a code minimum home. What do those costs look like to move up to DOE Zero Energy Ready Home? And again, there's a study on that published on the Zero Ready website. So just wrapping up, if this is your first time taking a look at the DOE Zero Ready program, question we hear a lot is, well, what would the next steps be? What does that look like? So we'd like to remind our partners and those that are getting familiar with the program that if they've worked with designers and energy consultants who know Energy Star, that's a really good thing, because there's all kinds of symmetry between Energy Star and the Zero Ready program. It's the same raters and verifiers who do the modeling, who do the plan review, and who do the field verification. It's the same network of raters. The modeling software, which I mentioned, there's at least 3 different options. Each of those software packages does compliance and modeling for Energy Star, as well as Zero Ready. So that's all integrated into the software that the rating community uses today. And then finally, once we're underway, the plan review and site inspection protocol is very much the same for Energy Star as it is for Zero Ready. In the case of Zero Ready, some of the thresholds are more stringent, and we're looking for a few additional things in the field, some of the indoor air quality features, for example, but the process and the site inspection protocol is very much the same. So we're really trying to work off the Energy Star platform to make it simpler and easier for our partners to participate. As far as the next steps in getting involved in the program, really the first step is to take a look at the website, and there's a partnership agreement available for builders, developers, or raters there. It's important to note that projects don't have to be pre-registered with the program, so that's not a step that needs to be taken. As far as certification fees, there's no fees due to DOE or the program for projects to become certified. We strongly recommend an integrated design process for our builders and developers getting involved, just the same as it would be for any other above code program. The process goes much smoother when the goals and the roles and responsibilities are laid out earlier in the design process. The rater will go about their review and site inspection process. As far as certifying projects, the rater takes care of this. And the rater ordinarily would submit their HERS ratings to a database maintained by ResNet called the Buildings Registry. And they'll do the exact same thing today for a Zero Ready project. And DOE on its side of things has an interface worked out with the registry where the program goes in and extracts out all the projects which are Zero Energy Ready Home certified. And then as builders and developers build and certify more projects, they get credit, and that's shown on the DOE Zero Energy Ready Home website. And then just a word on this last bullet, it is important to note that developers and their teams that are looking to receive those rebates under the New Jersey Clean Energy Program should work directly with that program, make sure they're hitting the right paperwork and qualification standards so they can be awarded with the appropriate rebates. So with that, we'll pause here and wrap it up. Here that we see the buildings.energy.gov/zero website. You can jot that down, or if you simply do a web search for DOE Zero Energy Ready Home, it'll take you right there. And as you might guess, this is where all these resources are housed. The partnership agreement, copies of the program specs, We didn't talk much about the DOE Tour Zero, but it's an online tour of several hundred projects that have come through the program, and you can take an online tour to see what they're doing. And you can look at affordable projects and multifamily projects to see what these projects look like and where they're being built. We have over 24 recorded webinars, and also a marketing toolkit, which is chock full of a lot of effective marketing tools for our builders to use to tell the story of what's different and special about Zero Energy Ready certified projects. So with that, we will close and wrap it up. Because this is a recorded webinar, obviously there's no questions today, but please feel free to reach out to us by visiting the program website, or if you have any questions at all, marketing, technical, program administration, or anything else, feel free to contact us at the zero@newportpartnersllc.com email address, which is listed here. With that, we will wrap up today's webinar, and we look forward to working with you in the Zero Energy Ready Home program. Thanks for joining us.